All right, so I'm going to start with the player animation. So as we add more different mechanics into the game, we need our player to be able to do different stuff. I kind of did this really quickly last week. I added like this like hit animation thing. And so I'm going to add some more. And so when I add in more obstacles, one of the things that obviously will happen, well, it doesn't have to happen, but one thing that may happen is my character might die, right, if I get hit too many times. So I need some type of animation to represent the player dying. You don't have to have your player die. Maybe the player can't die or something. It kind of depends on the game, or maybe you don't even have, like, you could have a game that's just, you know, characters exploring and talking to each other. You don't necessarily have to have death be part of the game. But since I'm going to add this moving obstacle and I already have a static obstacle, I do want to add something to basically make it so that the player, you know, if they run out of lives, they're going to die. And so we'll just show a quick animation and then probably restart the game. So I have the, you know, player file here, and I'm just going to add more sprites into here. I talked about this quickly last week, but I just want to reiterate, when we add stuff to our sprite sheet, we want to make sure to keep it the same so that we don't screw up our old animations. So our sprite sheet, if we look in the game art, here's my character. I basically just have to remember that it's 3 columns. The columns are, as long as we keep the columns the same, Godot will be able to parse it the same way. We can add more rows. That's why my hit animation down here is on a 4th row rather than adding a 4th column. So that's really all we have to keep in mind. So for my player death animation, I'm just going to copy my original animation, drag it down here. Whoops. Oh, it didn't make it all the way. Okay, I'll just drag it and try to make sure. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to put the death animation after the hit animation when the player gets hit. And I could also have an attack animation if you want to. I don't think I need that quite yet, but you could add that if you want to. So my player's eyes already kind of look like it's dead, so I'll have to figure out a different way to make it die. So I think what I'll do is I'll just duplicate, or actually, yeah, I'll keep this the way it is. And I'm just going to erase the tail. I'll probably redraw that. And I'm going to erase the eyes. I'll turn off the onion skin for a second. And actually, let's fill this in. So I'm going to use the bucket tool and fill in the eyes. And then let's erase the feet a little bit. Okay, so I'm just gonna like simplify this shape a little bit. And then I'll duplicate that a couple times. I'm only gonna do a few frames here. I don't need to have like a long, elaborate death animation, but if you want to, you can. And then I'll turn the onion skin back on for a second. I'm just going to drag the body down a little bit each frame. So it's just going to kind of like collapse. So I just want to do something simple to communicate that, you know, the players run out of life and we have to start over. So I'm going to drag the body down a little bit. I'm going to make the tail kind of like go down a little bit. So just going through each one of these frames, turn the onion skin on here. And, you know, you can think about what kind of like emotion you want, if it's like sad or whatever. Okay, and then we'll curl the tail down here. Okay, and then let's do the feet. So for the first frame, I'll kind of stick the feet out like that a little bit. And then they'll kind of be sticking up like this. I would probably fill these in a little bit better, but I'm just going to try to go quick. And then on the last frame, they'll just be like fully out like this. And then I'll just do the eyes. So I'll use the black for the eyes. And so when they first get hit, I'll kind of do like that. And then maybe like that. And then just like a couple dots. Okay, so it's kind of goofy, but that'll be good enough to communicate that, you know, we're dead, or at least we're like hurt and we have to start over. Okay, so then I want to save this, and again, I have to make sure when I export that I still just have 3 columns. So see here, now that I have a certain number of frames, since I have 14 frames, Piskel wants me to export 4x4. Because that'll be like a more efficient, but I don't want to do that because it's going to screw up my other animations. So I'm just going to put this to, it won't let me choose 3. So let's try choosing 3. Okay, so if I type in 3, it'll let me do 3. I want to keep the scale at 1, and I want to click download. If you mess this up, you can always redo it, but if you put it in Godot and Godot realizes it's not the right thing and then it redoes the animations, you might have a hard time recovering that. So let's just double check. There's our new sprite sheet. So we just added 3 frames to the end, same number of columns. So the main important thing is that we don't change the number of columns. We can always, if we screw that up, we can always go back and re-export. The problem is if we put it in Godot. So just be careful. If you put it in Godot, you might have a hard time fixing that. Okay. So let's quickly make our new moving obstacle art. So I'm going to save this as obstacle moving. And so since my game is about a cat, I just want to use like something that would attack a cat. So maybe I'll do a snake. I've done that in the past, so that should be pretty easy. So I'll choose like a green color for a snake. And so for my moving obstacle, depending on what different components you use, you're going to need an idle animation, a walking animation, and an attacking animation, and then a dying animation. If all of those things happen, then we have to use all of those things. All of those things don't have to happen, but that, you know, if we want all those things to happen, we need to do that. So I'm going to get a slightly, or let's stick with this. And I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. I'm going to make this the same size as my character, so it's a little more scary. So I'll do 64 by 64, and I'll choose a slightly bigger sprite and zoom out a little bit. And for my snake, it's not really a good shape for this, so maybe I'll use a circle as a basis and draw the snake around that. So I'm going to use a pen. I'm going to do like a little snake head, and then the snake body. It's pretty good. That's good enough. So let's get rid of that. So then for my next frame, for the idle, I'll just make the snake kind of like sit down a little bit and then go back up. It'll probably look like it's like breathing a little bit. So I'll put the head down a little bit and just kind of scrunch the body up a little bit. It doesn't really look too different, but I'll just do it like that. And maybe I'll add another frame. Actually, I'll just duplicate the first frame, and I'll go back and add like a tongue or something, so I have a couple different things there. So then let's go to attack. So for attack, remember we don't need like one frame of the snake the way it is, because it'll already be there. So we just go straight into the attack. So when the snake attacks, I'm just going to move the head forward like this. I'm going to the left for some reason. It doesn't really matter what direction you go in. And then maybe I'll put the tail over there like that. And then I'll do a couple frames. You could actually just do one frame. It doesn't look too bad. But I'll do a couple frames. So I'll add another frame here. Actually, let me do this. I'll put a frame here where the snake kind of goes back for a second, like builds up to an attack. So I'll put the head like back here, and then I'll put the body like this. So the snake will kind of get ready and then attack. Okay, that's pretty good. That'll be good enough. So let's add a new frame. So what else do we need? We have idle, we have attack. Oh, we need just a basic walk one. So for that, let's actually put that before our attack. I'm just gonna move this frame up a little bit. And for the walking one, I'm just gonna have the snake kind of like bounce back and forth. So I'll move the head forward a little bit and then do the body like that. And then make a new blank frame. So I'll just hit N, and I'll move the head back a little bit and move the body forward a little bit. This is a little goofy and exaggerated, but it'll get the idea across. And then we need one more. The snake dies when the player attacks it. So let's just go straight into dying. So the snake's head will kind of go down a little bit. Maybe the body will go up like that to just kind of exaggerate it getting hit. And then, oops, let's just make a blank frame. I'll put the head on the ground and kind of make the snake go like that. We'll make it kind of ridiculous. And then one more frame, the snake's head's down here, and the body's just like on the ground like that. Okay, so I've got my basic stuff. I'm gonna go back in and add a couple details. So I'm gonna make like a snake tongue. Oops. So I'll get a red color, go to the first frame, and I'll make a smaller pen and just make like a little tongue. Let's go down here and maybe a couple eyes. And then on this frame, this is the same one, so I'll kind of like wiggle the tongue a little bit. Maybe I'll just move it down here. So I can use a couple different frames for the idle. And then here I'll move the tongue up like that a little bit. Okay. My snake is going to look goofy, but I don't want to spend too much time on it. So then when the snake's walking, maybe the tongue will go down a little bit. Okay. And then when it attacks, oops. Let's put the eyes, the tongue will go out. Oh, I don't really have enough room here. That's okay. So I might want to make some more room there. I'm not going to worry about it for now. And then finally, when the snake dies, we can just do like little block eyes. And the tongue is like that. And then when it hits the ground, the eyes can look like that. And then last frame, I'll have the eyes and the tongue is like that. Okay. It's a little goofy, but that'll communicate what we need to communicate. So I'm going to save the Pascal file in my originals. So I'll save here. And I can see the preview here. It looks decent. It'll be fine. I can always make edits later, but this is good enough for now. So I'll just save this, and I need to export. So I'm going to export at 1x, and 3x4 is fine. So I'll click download. And it's already got my sprites folder open here. And I want to put obstacle at the beginning just so it'll be near my other obstacles for when I'm looking for stuff. So I have obstacle _ moving. I could also call this like snake if that's going to make it easier to find. I could say snake here, but just so it's easy to find in our files. Okay, so I'm going to save there. So that's pretty much all we need for Thursday. So we're going to look at how to create the obstacle and then how to trigger all those different animations and go over the physics that makes the obstacle work with the character. Okay.